Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku became the heroic assassin part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story 𝗧𝗏1228 from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Third-person POV. Izuku Midoriya, a quirkless junior high student at kunugigaoka, had the grades and test scores to be in B class, but when he had the interview and they asked his quirk, he said he was quirkless, so they shipped him off to E class. He was disappointed and his mother Izuku Midoriya was angry at him because he was in E class and not D or higher, and she started to beat him but not enough to be noticed. Then the moon was destroyed, well, only 70% of the moon, and he got a new teacher. His old one, Aguri Yukimura, just disappeared. Nobody knew where she went, and they got this new yellow octopus teacher, and the octopus was the same one who blew up the moon, and he is called the Tentacle. Everybody knew him as the #1 villain or the symbol of chaos, but now we see Izuku in a class waiting for someone. Izuku POV. I was waiting for the Tentacle to come in. We all had guns hidden on us, and he finally came inside the class. He went up to the front and placed down a book, and we began rock all, and we all stood up. Then we pulled out our guns and started to shoot it, but I kept missing with my pistol, so I placed it down quickly and took out a rifle, and I shot faster than before, but none of us hit him. But Sui stopped and he said that none of us hit him, and we called him out saying that he was cheating, but he asked for one of us to give him a loaded gun, so I gave him my pistol, and he shot one of his tentacles, making it come right of and wiggle in the floor. Then he explained that the bullets are harmless to us but deadly to him, and he told us that no guns during class, and we started the day. It was a while before someone else tried anything, but it was just before the end of the day, and he told us our last assignment, and it was a simple poetry assignment, and the end had to be, it was tentacles all along. But 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 asked what is his name, and he told us to give him one, so she started to come up with one. Then 𝐻𝐵𝐵 got up with a knife behind his poem, which was empty. Then he walked up to the tentacle and tried to stab him, but he was stopped by him. Then he jumped to hug him. Then an explosion went of shooting BBs everywhere. I got scared and I curled up into a ball under my desk, and the BBs stopped flying everywhere. Then Terasaka, Yoshida and Muramatsu ran up to 𝐻𝐵𝐵 saying how they killed the octopus and how the 10 billion was there, but the room suddenly felt cold and I was more scared, so I stayed where I was under the desk curled up into a ball shaking, and the tentacle said how he couldn't hurt us, and he quickly left the class and came back with our home nameplates and said how he can hurt anyone else, friends, family, anyone was fair game but us. And Terasaka said that he was just defending himself from a monster, and the cold feeling went away, and the tentacle praised the especially 𝐻𝐵𝐵, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 said that she had come up with a name and it was 𝗧𝗏 and he liked it, but I was still in my spot shaking, and 𝗧𝗏 noticed me and said out loud, 𝗧𝗏 Midoriya, calm down, it's okay, he won't hurt us, okay, calm down. Everyone looked at us and saw the state I was in, and 𝗀𝗏 rushed to us and he stopped in front of me and he tried to calm me down, but I got up and ran away from him, and I ran to the supply shed where all of the PE equipment was stored, and I hid there curled in a ball shaking. Third-person POV. Everyone saw how Midoriya ran away, and just as 𝗀𝗏 was going to chase him, Hazama said that he shouldn't go to home because it is obvious that Midoriya is scared of him, so 𝗀𝗏 asked 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to find him and calm him down, so she left the classroom to go look for him. After a while of searching, she had checked most rooms in the building, so she decided to go to the PE shed, and when she opened it she saw Midoriya shaking, so she ran up to him and tried to calm him down. After a while of trying, she decided to give him a hug and run his back in a circular motion, which worked, and Midoriya hugged back, and she tried to get out of the hug, but he said to her, Izuku, please, just don't go, please, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Okay then Midoriya, I'll stay like this, just breath. After she said this, Izuku felt safe. He hadn't felt like this in a long time. He liked it, and Izuku didn't want to leave this, but he knew he had to, so he decided to enjoy it for a bit longer, but he didn't realize that he was falling asleep, and soon enough 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 heard quiet but just loud enough to hear snores, and she realized that he had fallen asleep, so she tried to pick him up, and she did, but it was a bit too easy because Izuku was light. More light than he should be, so she carried him to the classroom, but she didn't go inside. Instead she asked 𝗀𝗏 to come outside of the class, which he did, and she told him what she knew and how light he was and where he was, so 𝗀𝗏 decided to take Izuku off her and place him on the couch in the teacher's lounge, and he placed a blanket over him and let him rest. After a good hour or so everyone had left the building and went home, except 𝗀𝗏 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, but he told her to go home after 30 minutes of her staying, which she did, and he called 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 about this, which he told him he would be there soon to check on him. When 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 arrived at the school it was 5:58 p.m. and he was greeted by 𝐀𝐻𝐮 who told again about what happened, which 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐴 scolded him for scaring Izuku that bad, but when he checked on Izuku, he also noticed how light he was, so he decided to do a home check soon. But not now because it would put more stress on Izuku, so he phoned Izuku's mother and told her that Izuku had stayed in school for some after-school sessions to catch up on some subjects and he would be home soon, and then he woke up Izuku with not too much effort and told Izuku to go home but to tell him if anything was wrong at home, which Izuku nodded at, and he left to go home as quick as he can. Izuku arrived at his home at 6:24 p.m. and when he got home he was greeted by his mother who made him shut the door. And she proceeded to beat him a bit while calling him useless and a quirkless waste of space, and she soon stopped and sent him to bed with no food. Third-person POV. It was a normal day for 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐦𝐚𝐫𝐲 along with 𝐂𝐮𝐭 are watching their teacher 𝐀𝐻𝐮 reading a newspaper from New York, and 𝐂𝐮𝐭 hatched his assassination attempt by throwing a baseball covered in 𝐀𝐻𝐮 at him, but 𝐀𝐻𝐮 caught the ball with a glove from the PE shed and told 𝐂𝐮𝐭 it was a good attempt and how it was better than an air gun but it could use more work, and he then told them to head to class. During class Izuku noticed that 𝐂𝐮𝐭 was feeling down because of his attempt but decided to leave it alone, and he just did his work, but he was thinking of a plan to kill 𝐀𝐻𝐮 and he had come up with this: a claymore filled with 𝐀𝐻𝐮 placed in the podium up front, but he would have to ask 𝐀𝐻𝐮 for the claymore first, then fill it with the 𝐵𝐵s. When it was lunch Izuku went outside to give 𝐀𝐻𝐮 a phone call, but when he was dialing him he heard some noises, so he went to check them, and he was something he didn't want to see. He saw 𝐀𝐻𝐮 using his tentacles on 𝐂𝐮𝐭, so Izuku took out a 𝐀𝐻𝐮 knife and he threw it at 𝐀𝐻𝐮, then ran away, and Izuku knew it didn't work, so he just left it at that, and he phoned 𝐀𝐻𝐮 and he waited for an answer, and he finally got one, so he said, "Izuku, hi 𝐀𝐻𝐮, sir, I need something for an assassination attempt, could you please get it for me?" 𝐀𝐻𝐮: "Okay, but it depends on what it is first." Izuku: "A remotely detonated claymore filled with 𝐀𝐻𝐮 𝐵𝐵s." 𝐀𝐻𝐮: "That could work. Okay, I'll get it for you, it should be at the class for you by the end of the day." Izuku: "Thank you, sir, I have to go now." By 𝐀𝐻𝐮: "Okay then, good luck, goodbye." Izuku then hung up the phone and went to his class to see a happy 𝐂𝐮𝐭 playing with his wrists, so he ignored it, and we just went in with our day with a few attempts which none got close to working. Izuku POV: after a while it was the end of the day and I had packed up my things, but 𝐀𝐻𝐮 came up to me and asked if I was okay after yesterday, so I told her I was fine and that she didn't have to worry me, and we decided to walk together. But as we were walking down the mountain I asked her, "Izuku, hey 𝐀𝐻𝐮, if you don't mind me asking, what's your quirk?" 𝐀𝐻𝐮: "Oh, it's nothing special, what's yours?" Izuku: I'm a quirkless." I said the last part quietly, but she must have heard me because she said that she was sorry for asking and said if I needed help just ask her, so I said I would, but soon enough we split up because we lived in different places. But as I was walking home I felt like I was being followed, so I sped up, but I was still being followed. But I got home safely and I checked the rooms in the apartment and I saw that it was empty, so Mom must still be working, so I quickly made myself something to eat, and I did the dishes quickly, and as I finished them the door opened and I saw Mom, who looked drunk, and she called my name, so I reluctantly went to her and she started to abuse me again, but not physically. Luckily, after she did what she wanted to say, she fell asleep drunk, so I left her on the floor and I just went to sleep thinking about who was following me. 2 days later I had woken up a bit later than usual, so I had to rush getting ready, so I ended up skipping breakfast, which I regret. Because when I got to the mountain I felt hungry, but I still felt like I was being watched, so I decided to ignore it and walk up the mountain. When I reached the top I felt exhausted, like I could barely function, so I walked slowly to class, and when I got to my seat I sat down and I saw Karma walk in, and he took out a real octopus and stabbed it with an ice pick and left it on the podium at the front. But looking at it I felt more hungry, but I ignored it the best I can, and soon enough 𝐀𝐻𝐮 had walked in the class and saw the octopus. Karma went on about saying he thought it was him, so he killed Ant and asked if he should get rid of it, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮 walked up to him saying it's his responsibility and whatnot, but suddenly he took out a few ingredients as well as a missile. He used the missile as well as the ingredients and octopus to make takoyaki, and suddenly I had some takoyaki in my mouth and a plate full of it on my desk, and so did Karma, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮 then said that it's his responsibility to take care of us and such, and that me and Karma can enjoy this takoyaki, which I immediately started to eat, and it was really good, definitely the best thing I've eaten for a long time. And when I finished it, I looked up to see everyone staring at me, and I started to blush from embarrassment, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 asked if I enjoyed it, and I told him yes, and thanks for the food. During the school day, Karma had many attempts to kill him, and all of them failed, but Karma left the building, so Nagisa followed him, and so did 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐵 after a while. And when he left the building, 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 came into the classroom and he gave me the claymore I asked for, so I set it up inside the podium, and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 then gave me the remote and told me how it works, and then left the classroom. And after he left, the three that left the classroom, and he started to teach the next lesson, so I paid attention. And when we got halfway into the lesson, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 was standing right in front of the claymore, so I placed my hand in my pocket and I found the remote in there, and I placed my fingers on the button to activate it, and I pressed down as he was writing the question, and it detonated. It made a loud bang and BBs went flying, and it scared most people. And when the smoke that was made cleared, we saw a slightly damaged 𝐀𝐻𝐿 standing in the doorway, and he yelled, 𝐀𝐻𝐿, what was that, Izuku? Quietly, it failed. Why, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 Midoriya, was that what 𝐾𝐻𝐿 gave you earlier, Izuku? Yes, and it failed. 𝐀𝐻𝐿, it didn't complete. Failed. Midoriya, it hit me, and I had to go fast to avoid the rest of it. So good job, I wasn't expecting you to do it. After I cleaned up the BBs, 𝐀𝐻𝐿 finished the lesson, so I left to get home quickly. But as I was about halfway home, a man dressed in full white, and I couldn't see any skin because his wild body was covered in white. It looked like that old group which was major back in the early 2000s. I think it was called the KKK, I don't know. And he walked up to me and said, "Man in white, are you Izuku Midoriya?" Izuku, why yes, WI. Man in white, my name is Shiro and I have a offer for you. It will help in killing the tentacle Izuku. I'm sorry B, but I don't know the tentacle, Shiro. Oh, but you do, your E-class is trying to kill it, and I have a offer and I know you won't decline it. Izuku, what is it? Shiro, would you like a quirk? I can give you one and it will help in killing the tentacle. Izuku, how is that possible? I mean, I thought it's impossible to give quirks, Shiro. Oh, it is possible, but do you accept? I know you are quirkless, so it will work a lot better than if I was to give it to a quirked person. Izuku, I need to think about it, Shiro. Okay, then here is the number to contact me when you are ready. Call it. He gave me a piece of paper with a phone number on it, so I take out my phone and I place the number in a new contact called Shiro, and I run home before my mom gets home. And I arrive home and see that she is passed out drunk on the couch, so I go to my room quietly and think about Shiro's offer. I mean, I could get a quirk and become a hero like I always wanted, but what quirk is it? But I should probably ask more about this later, and I'll keep it a secret for now. Izuku POV, it's been a while since I was given the offer from Shiro, and a lot has happened. Okuda tried to poison 𝐀𝐻𝐿, but she accidentally made him even more stronger with his new liquid form. Then we got a new student which was a AI, but she got a will of her own, and we had the school trip and I was kidnapped like a few of the girls, but I don't know why, because I was out cold when that happened. And apparently there's a new transfer student. I just hope that they are not like Ritsu in the robot way. As I was walking up the mountain, I felt like someone was watching me, and I remembered about Shiro's offer, and I think I should accept it, but I'm not sure yet. But I should probably get to school quickly. I'll think about it during the day. After I got to school, I sat down in my normal seat, and 𝐀𝐻𝐿 entered the class and did rock all, and I was thinking about his offer, and suddenly the door opened and Shiro came in, and most of us thought he was the new student, but he told us that he is the student's guardian. And suddenly the wall behind me blew up with a hole, and a kid with platinum blonde hair came through the hole. The whole class was quiet, and then yelled, "Class 3, use the door next time." The kid's name is 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐵, and he said how Karma was the strongest, and he walked up to me and just stared at me quietly, and Shiro told him it stopped staring at me, so he did, and I looked at Shiro and I swear me made direct eye contact, and I again thought about his offer, and I think I will accept, and maybe my mom will stop abusing me. I'll talk to him later. After 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻 challenged 𝐀𝐻𝐿 to a fight, and it was going to be held at the end of the day, and we just went on with our lessons. Soon enough it was lunch, and I decided to go outside and sit in a tree, and I took out my phone and I made sure nobody was close by to hear me, and I called Shiro, and after a while he answers, "Shiro, hello Midoriya, have you made up your mind about my offer?" Izuku, I have, but I need to know what is the quirk. I mainly want to know. Shiro, you will see, but do you accept? Izuku dash. Shiro, Midoriya, are you there? Izuku, sorry. I accept. When do we do this? Shiro, I will give you what is needed for this and some instructions on how to use it later. Izuku, okay, then I'll see you later. Goodbye. Shiro, Goodbye Midoriya. I hung up the phone and I put my phone away and got out my lunch and I started to eat it, but when I heard 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 call out for me, so I put my food away and got out of the tree and walked up to her, and she asked me who was I talking to, so I made up an excuse and said it was some family, but she then said, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, are you sure I heard something about a quirk and a offer mine telling me? Izuku, I don't know what you were talking about, it was just a phone call with some family 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Okay then, but if you need someone to talk about, I'll listen. Izuku, thanks, I'll talk to you when I feel like it. I went back to the classroom and just ate there, and I saw 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾 wall up to me and the class went quiet and he just asked to talk to me in private, so I nodded and I stood up and followed him and took me outside to a tree, and 𝗧𝗧𝗟 was there, so I asked him, Izuku, why did you ask for me? 𝗧𝗧𝗟, simple, I have what I wanted to give you here. He gave me a box which fit in my hand and I opened it to find an injection with something in it and some instructions on how to use it, and it said they were called antimatter tentacles, and he could tell I have questions, but he just told me, 𝗧𝗧𝗟, it will work better because you are quirkless and it won't kill you and you might want to keep that hidden. He walked away with 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾 and they left me standing there, so I put the box in my pocket and I read the instructions quickly, and it said they have an incubation process of 15 minutes and it said how to use them, but I saw 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 appear in front of me, so I pocketed the paper and he didn't seem to care too much and he just said to me, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Midoriya, what did they say to you? Izuku, nothing sir. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, then what was that paper? Izuku, oh nothing, I'll see you in class. I put my hand in my pocket to make sure the box and paper don't come out and I walked to class, and I could tell 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was suspicious about that interaction, but I just hope he doesn't look in the box. When I got to the class, I quickly placed the box and paper in my bag and I was asked by a few there about what happened between me and 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾, and I just told them not much and we continued with the day. Soon it was the end of the day and we moved the desks into an arena shape for the fight, and 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾 and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 were facing each other, and 𝗧𝗧𝗟 started the fight and suddenly tentacles appeared on 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾's head and he quickly attacked 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, taking off a few of his tentacles as they were fighting. 𝗧𝗧𝗟 intervened but using a device which caused 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 to harden, and 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾 nearly killed him, but 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 used anti-him knives to take out 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾's tentacles, and he then threw him out of the class, literally causing 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾 to lose the fight. 𝗧𝗧𝗟 has to knock 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾 out and take him away, and this left us confused on what happened, but I was thinking about, if the tentacles I'm going to get will allow me to do that, then can I become a hero? Soon we started to leave the building and go home, but as I was going home, Karasuma stopped me and asked what did 𝐼𝐻𝐻𝐾 and 𝗧𝗧𝗟 speak to me about, and I just told him that they asked me if I wanted to be stronger so I can kill 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, and I told them that I can do it without their help and that I can do it with E-class. Karasuma bought that excuse and let me go home, so I jogged home, but as I was getting close I got a message on my phone and it was from 𝗧𝗧𝗟. He asked if I had used the injection yet and I told him that I haven't yet, but I am going to in a bit, and he didn't reply, so I just went home quicker. When I got home I was greeted by my mom, who immediately started to abuse me again, but she got physical this time and smashed a glass bottle on my head which made me bleed a bit, and she stopped after a while, so I went to my room and bandaged my head making sure to stop the bleeding, and then I took out the box from my bag and locked the door and I read the instructions. It said to place it on a body part close to my head and inject it there, so I moved my hair from the back of my head with one hand and I placed the needle on the back of my head and I pushed it in, making it hurt. Then I pushed the trigger which injected the tentacles into me, and it felt weird, but it did say it will take 15 minutes to incubate, so I have time. I hid the empty box and the instructions in a bin and I got changed into some other clothes, and I felt pain on the back of my neck, so I quietly went to the bathroom and I checked where the pain was in the mirror, and I saw tentacles growing quickly and there were a light green color, and I tried to move them and they did, but I heard a voice ask me, "What do you want?" It was quiet, so I ignored it and I tried to make the tentacles go back into my body, which they did, but it hurt more, so I looked back into the mirror and made myself look normal, like there was no pain. It was like I was playing a part in a play or something. I walked back to my room and I went to bed, but I couldn't fall asleep for a while, but I did soon enough. Later during the week not much happened recently other than the baseball game we played and won. Nothing really happened, but I have been training my tentacles and I found out what they can do. Firstly, they can go around half of 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫's speed, so Mach 10, and with enough focus I can fly with them, but it is difficult, so I'm still practicing it. Secondly, I can cover my body with more tentacles, but it can hurt more, and the most I have covered was both of my arms and the pain was major, but I can handle it for a good 10 minutes before I need to stop, and I was still being abused by my mom, so I was thinking of scaring her or asked to stay with a friend for a while, but I decided to stay for now. Oh yeah, nobody knows I have these tentacles, so I make sure to keep it that way, but with these tentacles my thinking speed has gotten a lot faster, but I make sure nobody noticed, and few other changes have happened. For some reason I have gotten a bit of a sweet tooth, not like 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐽 level sweet tooth, but more like 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 level sweet tooth. Oh, and speaking of 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, we have gotten closer, and she is definitely my best friend, and I have gotten along with some others, and recently we started to use quirks in our assassination attempt, but most of the class is quirkless, and only a few have quirks, but they are more weaker and definitely are not for being a hero, but they are useful like Terasaka. His quirk is lion. It gives him lion attributes, but he doesn't have the mane or claws, but he can probably do a loud roar. When I was practicing with my tentacles, I heard the tell me that if I were to become my villain they would make me suffer because of that, but I think being a vigilante will be alright with them. I mean, it's his hero work, but illegal, so I should be alright, and I did find out my tentacles can heal me because my mom had one of her abuse sessions and it made my arm bleed, but it was fully healed after a minute, so that's good. Soon I got this idea to become a vigilante to train my tentacles further, and I had improved with them, but I did accidentally kill a guy trying to RPE someone, so I do have to be careful with them, but surprisingly no hero has tried to stop me yet. Right now it's around 10 p.m. and it was a Saturday, so I am doing a patrol and I heard a scream from a woman and a slithering sound. Please don't tell me that's 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐽. I flew to the sound quickly to see a fat middle-aged man lying on the floor dead and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 with tentacles looking at him, so I jumped down and she noticed me and attacked me, so I blocked with my tentacles and I yelled to her, calm down, I don't want to hurt you 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨. Well, those tentacles say over wise Izuku. Well, you have them too 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨. Touché. Now who are you? Izuku, I'm Green Rabbit. Who are you? Wait, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨. Pana, how do you know my name? Izuku, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, it is you, and it's me. I take off my rabbit mask and she sees my face and gasps, and I heard someone approach us, so I toss her a mask and I put mine back on and I say to her, Izuku, sweet rabbit, let's go, a hero is coming. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 got the idea quickly and nodded, so we used out tentacles to run away, but I saw the hero who had to be him Endeavor run at us, and he shot a fireball at us and yelled at us saying to come back villain and face him like a man, so we did the logical thing and run away, but since 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 is slower than me and Endeavor was catching up to us, I pick her up and fly away at Mach 5, half of my maximum speed, and I land in a rooftop, and she immediately said to me, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, okay Midoriya, why do you have tentacles and are you a vigilante now? Izuku, okay, first I got them from Shiro because he offered them to me, and yes, I'm a vigilante now. Why do you have them? 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, well, Amaya Izuku. If you don't want to tell me yet, then fine, but we should keep this a secret from the class, right? 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, oh yes, right, anyway you can fly. Izuku, yeah, my tentacles allow me to fly at a maximum speed of Mach 10, so that's good, right? 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, yeah, that's good. Oh, and why did you call me Sweet Rabbit back there? Izuku, I didn't have a different name, plus I just threw you a light green rabbit mask, so I called you that, plus you like sweets 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨. Okay, then so what's your vigilante name? Oh, and I'm guessing the tentacles gave you a sweet tooth like me because I've seen you eat more sugar than before recently. Izuku, yeah they did, and my vigilante name is Green Rabbit. Anyway, how should we work together on killing him? 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, I don't know just yet. I'm gathering information on his weaknesses first before using my tentacles to kill him. Oh, and can I ask you something, Izuku? Sure, what is it? 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, well, when you got your tentacles, do they hurt you? Just wondering, Izuku. Yeah they do, but I don't know how bad it is for someone else. I mean, I am quirkless and it hurts quite bad, especially when I'm hiding them, so I put up a act to hide my pain. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨, you too, huh? Well, I guess I can tell you my backstory later, but why vigilante? Izuku, simple, to practice my tentacles. And how do you practice them? 𝐀𝐮𝐽, similar to you, I go out at night and fight people, but I do end up killing them about half the time, and I run away from heroes. Izuku, well, I accidentally killed a villain a while ago, but I have an idea. 𝐀𝐮𝐽, what is it? Izuku, why don't we work together to become vigilantes and become stronger so we can kill 𝐻𝐻𝐿 a bit easier? Suddenly we heard someone behind us and we both turned around to see a hobo with yellow goggles and a scarf walk towards us, and I immediately thought that he was Eraserhead, so I get my tentacles ready to fight, and so did 𝐀𝐮𝐽, and we heard him tell us to stand down and that we are under arrest for vigilantism and murder, and he quickly launched his scarf at us, so I used my tentacles to cut the scarf and stop it, making him surprised, and I said to 𝐀𝐮𝐽, Izuku, sweet rabbit, I think we should go now. 𝐀𝐮𝐽, Green Rabbit, good idea, plus I want to talk more when we get home. We both turn around and run away, and we jump off the roof and use our tentacles, so move across the city easier like that old school hero. It was Spider something, and as we were going around the city I asked 𝐀𝐮𝐽 where should we go, and she just said to me, 𝐀𝐮𝐽, simple to my home because I live alone so nobody will be there. I nodded at her and I followed her to her home, and when we got there it was a normal apartment, and when I went inside I locked the door behind me and I took off my mask and we sat down at her kitchen table and we started to talk. After a while of talking we both opened up to each other and I told her about the abuse I go through from my mom, and she told me her backstory and how 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 killed her sister. I was surprised when she said that and I chose to believe her, and she told me her real name Akari Yukimura, and she told me to call her by her real name when alone and her fake name at school or in public, so I told her to call me by my first name when alone. But after a while I asked if I could stay with her to avoid my mom's abuse, and she agreed and said I can stay the night her and pick up my things tomorrow. And soon enough it was 11:30 p.m. and we both decided to go to bed, and I told her I'll sleep on the couch for tonight, but she said that she will take the couch and I can take her bed, and we ended up having a small argument about it and just agreed to share her bed. When we went into her room I asked if there were any clothes I could borrow to sleep in because of our similar height and body shape, and she said there was, so she gave me a pair of pajamas which were definitely for a girl, but they will do. I put on the pajamas and I climbed into bed with her, and I was blushing madly and I tried to fall asleep, but the tentacles were hurting because I put the back into my body, so I gave up and took them out, and she noticed this and asked why do I have them out, so I told her that they hurt when trying to sleep with them in, and she agreed about that, so she took hers out again, and for some reason both of our tentacles were attracted to each other and they became entwined, and when this happened I felt safe again and happy, and I didn't realize that I was hugging her, and she did the same thing to me, and I ended up quickly falling asleep in each other's arms. Third-person POV. It was a normal day for most people but not for Izuku Midoriya and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. When Izuku woke up he realized that he wasn't home in his room and he was in someone else's clothes. When he looked to his side he saw his classmate 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 sleeping next to him, and she had green tentacles which were entwined with his own tentacles, and he remembered what happened and how they are now a vigilante duo. Izuku tried to move his tentacles but they refused to move and stayed entwined with 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴's tentacles, so he decided to wake her up gently, but she refused to wake up, so he decided to pick her up, but it was a bit difficult with their tentacles, but he managed to do it. He brought her to her kitchen and placed her in a chair and again tried to move his tentacles, but only one of them moved, and he used that one to find some pudding for her, and he did find one, but it took a little while, but he did get it, and he opened it and placed it in front of her, and she immediately woke up, and she was surprised when she saw Izuku, but before she could say anything she remembered what happened last night. But when she noticed both of their tentacles were entwined she asked why they were like this, so Izuku told her what he thought of it. Izuku: I don't know, maybe the tentacles like each other, or is it something different, but they're stuck. To how should we get them unstuck? Fano: I don't know, I mean we could cut them off with our knives because we know they would work. Izuku agreed to this, and he used his free tentacle to grab his and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴's bag, and when he gave it to them they both took out a knife and they placed it on the tentacles which were stuck, and they slashed it together, cutting them off, making them wiggle around before stopping and dissolving. When the tentacles dissolved they let them regenerate and immediately hide them in their bodies, and they talked about their new thing, the vigilante stuff, and they agreed to patrol together on weekends. But when 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 asked Izuku how they will meet up, she remembered about what Izuku told her about his home life and how she offered him a place to stay, and so they made a plan. They planned to fake Izuku's disappearance and make it so he is missing, and they forged him a new identity. His new identity was 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴, and they dyed his hair a bright green like 𝐀𝐮 and put some things to remove the curls, and they tied it up into a bun because they can't put them in the same style 𝐀𝐮 has them in them. They did some work in his face making him look like 𝐀𝐮 to the point you would think they were twins, and when it hit nightfall they broke into Izuku's home and took all of his things he wanted, so clothes, his notebooks and other things, and Izuku took some of his All Might merch and decided to sell it online, and he put the rarer merch for a higher price. And surprisingly somebody bought all of it, and the person was called 𝐴 on eBay. When they had done all of that they 𝐀𝐮 got Izuku to work on his acting skill a lot more, and he was able to fake his voice perfectly, and they made a new plan on how to get him in the classroom, and it was Izuku following 𝐀𝐮 to school and seeing 𝐀𝐮 making him join the class. Izuku/Teo POV. It was Tuesday, and the day I went in with my new identity, and 𝐀𝐮, my sister, left a few minutes before me, and I followed her in some normal clothes to school, making sure I wasn't seen, and her reached the mountain, and I was making good time, but I decided to walk away from the path to not be seen, and while I was walking I saw 𝐀𝐮 walking up the mountain, and he was on his phone talking to someone, and I managed to hear 𝐀𝐮: Good, you are still looking for him? Yes, but we haven't came up with any leads. We will contact you when we do. 𝐀𝐮: Okay then, thank you and goodbye. He hung up the phone and kept walking up the trail. And I decided to take a break, and I got a message from 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 on my new phone because we got rid of our old one, and she said that I should probably get to the classroom by 9ish, and so I took that tip and got out a bento box, and it was 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐶. I sneakily took it from her bag, so I had an excuse to come in the classroom, and I waited for the lessons to start, and I quietly walked into the building making sure the other two teachers were in the lounge, and I walked to the classroom door and I took out 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴's bento and took a deep breath, and I opened the doors. Everyone immediately looked at me, and I made myself look nervous, and I just said, 𝐬𝐮𝐿, you forgot your bento this morning, so I brought it, but I see what you do here with this thing, so I'll just leave it here and leave. See you at home. I placed the box on the drawer next to the door and I turn around to leave, but I was stopped by 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐭𝐡𝐴, who wrapped me in his tentacles and told the class that he would deal with me. He brought me to the faculty lounge where I saw an angry-looking 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐭𝐡𝐴 and surprised Irina, and I said hi quietly, and he yelled at 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 saying how he is supposed to be a secret here, and the next thing I know I was in an interrogation room with 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 and two government agents, and they told me about 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 and the assassination plan, and I had two options: join the class or a memory wipe, so I picked the first option, and I was enrolled in E-class again, and I was sent home, so I waited for 𝐀𝐮𝐿 to come home so I can tell her the news. When she got home she asked how did it go, so I told her that I'm now in the class and they don't suspect a thing. She was happy to hear this, and we decided to do a early patrol for our vigilante work. Even thought is 5 p.m., so I think we will finish it around 11 p.m. so we can at least get a good amount of rest time. Skip 3 months. 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 POV 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴. Alright, keep your eyes on your target. If you can't predict his moves, then you can't fully counter his evasive maneuvers. 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 thoughts. Not too shabby for 4 months of training. Every day these kids show more promise. Take Isegai and Maihara for example. Then there's Karma. At first glance he's all lazy and sarcasm, but behind that facade lurks the instinct of a killer. Teo, he is talented at combat, but something is off about him. It feels like I already know him, but I haven't met him until he found out about the octopus. And the girl's Okano's gymnastics background makes her moves unpredictable. Meg easily has reach and mobility of her male counterparts. These are the standout would-be assassins of the group. 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴. Don't forget 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴, the ideal teacher, a man of grit and character whom none have the heart to kill. 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴. This is my internal monologue. No one wants your input. 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 thoughts. Truth be told, the other students may have a long way to go, but they've come a long way than I dare hope. Suddenly I felt a snake wrap around me, so I turn around to block, and I ended up flipping Nagisa onto the ground hard, so I apologized that I did it too hard, but just then did I have a momentarily lapse of sanity. What was that third-person POV? As 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 walked away from the students, they were talking about how they couldn't hit him, but as he was walking away Kurahashi asked him if he wanted to join them for food later, but he declined, saying how he had too much work to do, and she stopped following him. But when 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 reaches the steps, he saw a plump man with a lot of bags. The man was called Takaoka, and he told them how he is here to help 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 with training them, and he asked him they were ready to have some fun. When he got to the other students, he set down a blanket and placed loads of sweets and cakes, and everyone was not sure if they were allowed them, but with Izuku/Teo he was suspicious of Takaoka, but he accepted one of the cakes, which was one of his favorite flavors. 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 appeared behind Takaoka and Nakamura, and he was drooling from the sight of the sweets, and he gave 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐶𝐴𝐴 some to eat, which he immediately got to eating, and he went on saying how life's too short to not spend it with people you think is family, and he was labeled as a neighborhood dad, and he accepted that name with honor. Izuku/Teo POV. I was suspicious of Takaoka with what he is doing. I mean, giving a class of junior high kids high-end sweets is a red flag to a few people, but what is he up to? I mean, I'm not complaining. These cakes are so good, and I can tell 𝐀𝐮 is loving them as well. I guess our sweet tooth is getting the better of us, but what is he up to? The next day it finally got to PE, so we can find out how we are going to our new PE lessons with Takaoka, and he has us lined up outside on where we do our PE lessons, and he said how things are going to be tougher, and if we stick it out there will be more sweets for us. And Nakamura made a joke about how he is probably saving them for himself, and he had a comeback which made us all laugh. He then gave us a new schedule which was ridiculous. I mean, training until 9 p.m. How am I and 𝐀𝐮 going to do our vigilante patrols like this? Mahara decided to speak out about this and how we have school, but Takaoka grabbed his head and kneed him in his stomach, making him cough saliva out and fall on the ground in pain. He made a statement on how he is in charge now and we cannot go against him or else, and he can get replacements for anyone who cannot stick it. Out then Kanzaki said how P isn't her favorite subject and how she would prefer Mr. Karasuma, but Takaoka slapped her in her face, launching her onto the floor. Then Karasuma came running telling him to stop it, and he checked on Kanzaki and Mahara making sure they are okay. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was angry at him and he was threatening him, but Takaoka taunted him and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had no choice but to stop. Later he were doing his harsh training and I knew what he was trying to do. He was trying to crush our spirits, so we had no choice but to do what he wants. But Kurahashi stopped and asked for Mr. Karasuma to help her, but Takaoka heard and saw this, so he was about to hit her, but Karasuma appeared behind him stopping him from attacking. Karasuma threatened him and Takaoka gave him an offer, and it was a fight, and Karasuma had to pick his start pupil to fight him, and if the chosen person hits him even once he will concede. But then he took out a real knife. He tossed the knife to Karasuma. Karasuma looked at us and I could tell he was choosing one of us, and he started to walk to me and Nagisa and he offered the knife to me. He wanted me to fight this guy. He did say I can decline, but after what he did to Kanzaki and Mahara, I'm not backing down. I took the knife from him and everyone was looking at me shocked, but I heard Takaoka say how Karasuma's eyes must be failing him and how I'm small and not very strong. I stood in front of Takaoka and he said he was ready, so I gave him a glare which I would only give the villains that I'm fighting, but even then that was rare and I could tell he was a bit shaken, but he hit it well, and I decided to use a new fighting style I've been working on and I call it rabbit style. Rabbit style is a fighting style which I made with inspiration from the pro hero 𝗏𝗏, which is me moving around quickly and constantly jumping from spot to spot, but this is more meant for a city area or forest because what I can jump on and off from, and so I jumped around, slowly approaching him and he got ready for me, but I made it look like I was going in for an attack, but it was a fake out because last seconds I jumped to the right avoiding his hand which he was going to use to block me, and I slashed again but he dodged, so I kept my strategy of moving in different directions making him unable to predict my next move, and I then jumped forward slashing his arm and I jumped back a bit and everyone could see his now bleeding arm and I won. Thank God it worked. Suddenly the knife in my hand was stolen by 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, who started to eat the knife even though it had some BLD on it, and Takaoka now looked sad at me and he was about to charge at me, but Karasuma knocked him onto the floor and said how he lost and now he has to get lost, and then we heard a new voice which was the principal's voice, and he said how that wasn't necessary because he then stuffed Takaoka's mouth with walking papers. Takaoka ran away angry and I was immediately asked questions on that fight. Even Karasuma asked what was that fighting style, so I said to them Izuku simple. I made that fighting style, I call it rabbit style, but I've not perfected it just yet. Then a few of the others asked for a reward, so Karasuma said we can get something to eat, and he took out his wallet which Irina sensei took, and we all walked to the classroom and I heard a noise to see 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 grovel towards us. Then he goes quicker like he is chasing us, so we ran, well the girls at least, but as we were walking Karasuma asked me, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, Teo, how long have you been practicing that fighting style? Izuku/Teo, for a month now, but it's not really meant for open fields nor like a city or forest area, so I can jump onto and off things. Why? Karasuma, just wondering. Keep up the good work. I could tell he was suspicious of me, so I have to be careful now because with the work me and 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 have been doing, we have become quite known in Tokyo as the Rabbit Duo, and more heroes have been patrolling Tokyo recently, so we have to be careful, and we have fought some heroes but we never killed them because if we did then we would be villains and that can make things harder for us if he suspects me. But 𝐾𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, she hasn't shown her skill yet, plus she mainly uses her tentacles while I do a mix of tentacles and rabbit style. Time skip to the next day. It was a hot summer day for us and 𝐀𝐻𝐿 told us to get our swimwear on for some reason, but due to a problem or karma did something, there was one less of the boys' swimwear, so I had to wear the girls' one, which isn't that bad. I mean, I can hide that scar on my chest from the villain that tried to mug me a few days ago. When I wasn't expecting it, when I got changed I caught up with the others and we walked through the forest a bit and we were all wondering where he was leading us to. Soon 𝐀𝐻𝐿 told us that we have arrived and we saw a swimming hole that he made for us, and everyone jumped in happily while me and 𝐾𝐮𝐿 got a ring each because we can't swim from our tentacles. I was close to the shallow end with 𝐾𝐮𝐿, and the class pervert Okajima had a camera with a long-range lenses which was weird, and he mentioned hat people go for 𝐾𝐮𝐿's body type and mine, which I didn't need to know. Later in the week, Terasaka has been acting strangely recently and he has been more annoyed with 𝐀𝐻𝐿 for some reason. I mean, I hate him after what he did to Akari's sister/our old teacher, but I hide it like Akari/𝐾𝐮𝐿 really well. Later, Terasaka broke the motorbike 𝐀𝐻𝐿 made to show everyone, and now he wants us to get in the pool to help him. God, why did I agree to help him? I'm standing in The shallow end of the pool close to 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 had just arrived and he asked if the plan was to push him and we all rush him while he is in the water, but 𝗧𝗧𝗟 said how much of a pain he is and he pointed it at 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 that he pulled the trigger. Suddenly an explosion happened destroying the dam which keeps the water here, and the current was too strong for us and it took us with it. Everyone tried to swim against it but it didn't work and I was struggling to stay afloat but I couldn't do it and I went under the water and I hit something which made everything go black. Third-person POV. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was trying to perform CPR on her brother Teo but it wasn't working and everyone was worried, but 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 couldn't help because he was fighting 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻. But when Karma arrived he told 𝗧𝗧𝗟 what to do, and while he did that he took out a pen and undid it and he stabbed it into Teo's neck, making the water inside come out and waking him up. Teo went into a coughing fit but he stopped and was breathing steadily and he lied back down, then asked what happened. So 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 told him what happened and how 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻 is fighting 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻, and Karma got 𝗀𝗧𝗟 to take a tentacle to his gut but he wrapped his shirt around the tentacle and 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻 started to sneeze a lot and his tentacles started to swell up, and everyone used this to their advantage and they jumped in the water soaking 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻 and making his tentacles swell up even more, and I just sat there on the rocks watching this and they both left in defeat. Saturday 8 p.m. me and Akari has just finished getting out vigilante outfits on and we left the apartment and we took out our tentacles and we left to go patrol. After a little while we heard glass break so we went to check it out and it was a jeweler's shop robbery, so we waited for them to get out of the building and once they did we saw there were 4 of them but they look familiar. But who? I told Akari that they look familiar and that we should be careful and she agreed with that, so we went for the 2 smaller figure while I went for the 2 larger ones. I jumped down into the street and the 2 I was after noticed me and got ready to fight, but something was off about them. Their fighting stance, it really familiar like there. No, it couldn't be. Could it? God, no, it's a trap. Sweet rabbit, ice, a trap. Get out of here. Akari looked at me in shock and now realized it, so she ran to me, but we heard police sirens and the robbers took off their masks to reveal heroes. It was Gang Orca, 𝗀𝗃, Mirko and 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻, and we were soon surrounded. We both got ready to fight, but with all of the police and heroes surrounding us I might have to use my flight capabilities, which should work especially at the speed. But as we were waiting to make our move, a man in a suit walked past the police and it was 𝗂𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻, so that is good I guess, but we don't know his quirk yet, so we both stayed on high alert, and when he stopped approaching us he said, 𝗂𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻, Vigilantes Green Rabbit and Sweet Rabbit, you are under arrest for vigilantism, murder and illegal quirk. You stand down now. Akari, Green, what do we do? Izuku, I'm not sure, but I think 𝗂𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻 definitely has noticed our tentacles but now, so he probably is ready to combat them if he had the anti-sensei weapons. As I said this, 𝗂𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻 took out an anti-sensei knife and charged us, catching us off guard, and he took out one of Akari's tentacles and I kicked 𝗂𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻 in his chest, but it looked like it did nothing to him, and we saw the other heroes ready to use their quirks to stop us, so I used my tentacles to rush 𝗀𝗏𝐿ady, but she used her quirk to grow in size and I used it to my advantage by slicing her arm in a circular motion like Levi did against the Beast Titan in AOD Season 3. This made her back off and more heroes charge at me, but before they reached me I told Akari to run and hide somewhere, which she did thankfully, and the police and heroes didn't notice her, so that made it a lot easier. Ed shot through kunais at me, but I used my tentacles to block them, but the moment they hit my tentacles they went trough, then destroying my tentacles, so they must be anti-sensei material, and I regenerated them, but they surrounded me, but I had some space, so I used rabbit style to move in an unpredictable way, throwing them off a bit, so I used the tentacles to fly away at Mach 8 and I started to search for Akari, but I could find her, so I phoned her and she answered, Izuku, where are you? Akari, Teo, I'm heading to the apartment, meet me there, okay? Izuku, sure, I'll be there. I hung up the phone and I flew over to the apartment fast, and I quickly got there to see that she was waiting for me, and when I got face to face with her she hugged me tightly saying how she's glad I got home, and I take her inside where she hugged me again tightly while crying, and for about 4 minutes of her crying she stopped and calmed down, where I told her what happened and we came to an agreement of taking a break from vigilante work for a month. Izuku POV, it was the day of the final exams and we must win again A class, because if we do then we go to Okinawa Island instead of A class, and who knows what they will make us do. The first exam, English, it was tough. I mean, I know this is a top school, but seriously this is really advanced stuff here, but thank goddess for 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐼𝐻𝐻 recommending that book. It really helped me with this question. The second exam, science, it is one of my weaker subjects, so I'm not really good at it. I'm sure Okuda is doing better than me. And I'm sure I won't do the best. The third exam, social studies, one of my better subjects, especially science. There is questions on heroes, my strong point, but some of these questions were confusing, but I'm sure I did alright on them, but I will have to wait. The fourth exam was Japanese literature, one of my better subjects, so I did good on it, but I'm sure a few did better than me, and I'm sure Kanzaki did a lot better than me knowing her. The fifth exam, math, one of my middle subjects, not the best but not the worst, so I'm the middle, but some of these questions are just ridiculous. I mean, they're so difficult. I mean, some of these are probably college-level questions. Later in the week, it was the day we get the scores, and 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 started to read it. The scores, 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴, okay, the English portion. First in E-class, first in the entire grade, Ryo Nakamura. We all cheered for her, and she was definitely happy and made sure, but Nagisa came 6th, and he was told to be careful on his spelling, and I came 8th, and it was the same problem for me spelling 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴. Okay, next the Japanese literature portion. First in E-class, Yukiko Kanzaki, but first in the entire grade goes to A-class, Gakushu Asano. Still, you have him a run for his money. We were happy she placed 2nd, but too bad she wasn't 1st. Ah well, the score is 1 also, that's good, but I could have done better. I mean, I came 11th, so there's room for improvement. 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴. Next is social studies. First in E-class, 𝐒𝐮𝐦𝐬𝐚, and first in grade, 𝐒𝐮𝐬𝐚. Congratulations. Now it was 2-1, but I came 4th, so that was good, and we were all excited to see who came first in science, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 gave us the answer. 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴. First in E-class for science is Manami Okuda, and first overall, outstanding. You're also 5th for the grade. We all started to cheer, and now it's 3-1, and we're winning this bet, but I definitely could do better. I was 45th, and now it's maths, but we've definitely won this bet. With A-class, we lost the math portion. Asano got 1st, and I came 6th. The highest in E-class, so that's good, but I was sure Karma would have gotten better than me, and he got 10th. I saw 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 talk to Karma, and I'm sure he was teasing Karma about it, and it looked like he did it harshly because Karma went away angry, but at least we won the bet, so we are going to Okinawa Island soon. The bell went, so we went back into class, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 told us that the ones who got a tentacle to destroy can chose which one, but suddenly Terasaka and his group came in saying that it was bull, that they only had the top 3 spots, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 counted the subjects but was interrupted by Terasaka saying how home EC was also on there too, and they aced them all, and he put down 4 papers which were tied for first and they belonged to his group, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 definitely panicked. AMD, we argued with him, and now we got 7 tentacles to destroy. Isegai told 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 that we want to use our bet with A-class to sweeten it up. The last day of school we confronted A-class about the bet, and how if they tried to pretend it never happened, then we would throw in home EC, and we said how our demand was sent via email, and we got in line for the assembly, and Ritsu's stand-in was hovering around me and Sagaya, which I managed to ignore, but Sagaya couldn't, so he came in dead last for E-class. During the assembly, the guy who was up there talking couldn't say much because of how we did in the finals, and his potshots are not going well because we did well, so it's hard to make us feel like the bottom of the school when we did so. Well, soon enough we went back up to class, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 handed out some guidebooks, but they were massive and form what Okajima said they are like a accordion, and 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 went on about how we can go to Okinawa Island for a while. Isegai said how we are going to use the free tentacles on the island. The 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐴 made us our own repot cards, and they were double circles, the highest score possible, and he said how we did so well. And such time skip a week or so, me and Akari decided to do something risky and do a vigilante patrol during the day, but we decided to do it for 3 hours, so a lot shorter than usual, and we decided to take a bullet train to Mizudafu where UA is, but that is a risky, but it is better than Tokyo, and we should be back home the next day. Later during our patrol we ended up going near where I used to live before I moved to Tokyo, and when we arrived we just went to a close by hotel, but it was close to UA, which can make things more difficult I guess, but we soon got changed and went on patrol. Later we took a small break because we have been going for 2 hours and we stopped a lot of villains, so that is good, but we definitely noticed that more heroes have arrived in the area, so we are going to have to stop soon. When we went back to patrolling we ran into a hero, which wouldn't be so bad if it weren't one of the heroes which teaches at UA. God, this will be annoying, and it is present Mike, so that will be worse, but we did hide in an alley in time, but he must have saw us because he started to look into the alley, and it was a smallish one, so we had to do something, and Akari said she had a plan, and she told me to take my mask off, so I did, and she did the same thing, but she hid both of them in a bag. She brought them, she grabbed my face and brought me into a kiss, which took me by surprise, but I did kiss back, and present Mike walked close to us, and he turned his head to see us, and he immediately turned around and said, "Sorry for interrupting us," and he ran off, blushing, and we stopped kissing, so I asked her, "Izuku, Akari, why did you do that? Akari, I couldn't think of anything else and I kinda liked it. Izuku, well, I liked it too, but it surprised me, but a kiss was something I didn't expect. Akari, yeah, I'm glad you liked it, but what does this make us? Izuku, I don't know, I mean we aren't related by BLD and it only says we are in our documents, so I'm not sure. Akari, well, I mean we could try it if you know what I mean. Izuku, well, I'm not sure, I mean if we did try and date then we would have to keep it a secret. Akari, I wouldn't mind, so want to try it. Izuku, sure. Akari, so want to head back to the hotel room. Love. Akari, sure. Izu, we both left the alley holding hands and we went back to the hotel room, but when we arrived it was around 4 p.m. so we decided to get changed and watch a movie because we didn't know what to do, but during the movie we took out our tentacles to relax a bit better, but they decided to entwine themselves for some reason. After watching the movie it was 6, and I started to feel strange and my tentacles made me move closer to Akari and that feeling was becoming stronger, and the next thing I turned to face Akari and she faces me and I asked her about this feeling that I was experiencing and she said that the same thing was happening to her and our faces moved closer together and our lips connected making us kiss. I was in pure bliss from our kiss and we kept going, but we had to stop kissing because we needed to breath, but the tentacles were making that feeling stronger and we started to kiss again, but it was more romantic because our tongues started to fight for Dems and I won. So I started to explore this new territory with my tongue and I felt pure bliss. I started to go a bit more aggressively and I heard Akari in pleasure and the feeling got stronger and I moved my hand up her shirt and I groped her booty making her more. I had to stop the kiss for air and when I did she said to me, Akari, Izuku, don't stop. I started to take off her top which left her BR exposed. And I kept going, but before I could go further we heard my phone go off, so I quickly check it. And it was 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and I told Akari and she said to answer it, so I answer and place it on loudspeaker. Izuku, hi 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴, Ateo, where are you? Because I came to check on you to make sure you have everything for the trip to the island, but you're not home. Izuku, yeah, I forgot to tell you that me and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴 have some family issues which we are dealing with. We'll be back home hopefully tomorrow, if not the day after. 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴, okay then next time tell me beforehand so I don't worry. Izuku, okay then bye. 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴. I hung up the phone and the mood was ruined thanks to 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴, so we both just got changed into pajamas because it's more comfortable and we settled down to watch a movie which was an old one since it came out before quirks appeared, but it's a good film. But when it finished it was about 8 p.m. so we decided to just sleep and take an early train home tomorrow. A few days later we were on the boat to the island and I could see 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴 getting seasick and we could see the island in view and we soon arrived there. When we got to the hotel we all had to share rooms, but we did choose who luckily, so me and 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 both chose each other and we both put our things in our room. Then we met the others down outside near the beach where we decided what to do and we split up into groups and I was with 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴, Nagisa, Karma, Sugino, and Nakamura and we all were in swimwear. I went with a one piece because why not, and we were doing recon. It took a while and we decided on the chapel on the water and we went into the onboard ship restaurant. But how does 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴 have a tan on his teeth? But he shed his skin, but he told us it uses his energy, but he didn't realize it until it was too late and he put himself at a disadvantage. And soon enough we finished our food and we took him to the chapel and we started. Nagisa patted him down and we started the video which was made. 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐴 was watching the video which Mimura made and I snuck out with 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 to the boats. I was on the same one as 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 and we were talking about random things, but we were still waiting for the signal, but we were waiting for an hour and we got the signal, so 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 hit the accelerator and 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 asked if it came apart, so I looked behind us and told her it did. But suddenly an explosion happened which shook the boat a lot, so 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 turned us around towards the others and we got there quickly, but when we arrived 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 saw something. We stared at it for a minute before explained it. He called it his absolute defense form and Karma immediately teased him and we decided to head back to the hotel and we went to the restaurant, but I got changed when I got there. Into this I took my spare bag so I could come up with plans for the assassination attempts, but nothing came to mind. But I started to feel sick, but I was able to hide it well, but we were all quiet. But suddenly Nakamura collapsed and Okajima's nose shot BLD out, but I could feel the tentacles fight it and it was making me feel worse, but I can still function. Karasuma looked annoyed and we started to plan, but the guy who poisoned us said the 3 shortest students, but we decided to take all of the healthy students and Karasuma and Irina sensei. We reached the midsection of the mountain and we have to climb it, so we started, but me and 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 we doing well because of our experience with vigilante work, so it makes climbing a lot easier. As we were climbing, me and 𝐀𝐮𝐿𝐴 we getting ahead of Everyone, so we slowed down, but as I was climbing the illness was getting worse, but the tentacles were fighting it, but we soon reached the top. I felt bad for 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐵 because he had to carry Irina-sensei. We were waiting to enter and Ritsu unlocked the side door, so we entered, but Irina decided to distract the guards while we snuck past them easily because of this, and we started to go up and we were told not to judge a book by its cover. By 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, but we reached a corridor, but we told to pretend to be entitled, but I went for a cocky brat persona, but as we were going we got to a open area which Terasaka and Yoshida decided to run ahead, but the man who looked like the waiter back at the hotel was walking down and he suddenly Mr. 𝐀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 pulled them back, but he was hit with a gas attack and he jumped back and he asked what gave him away. 𝐹uwa told him what gave him away and he denied it, but she outsmarted him by saying how he infected us, and suddenly 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 fell onto his knees and we blocked the exits and 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 cockered him out with a single kick to the face, but he then fell onto the ground, so we all ran to help him. We tied him up and hid his body and two of us carried 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 while we kept going. We soon reached a corridor on the 5th floor and there was a guy standing there which I could tell he was an enemy, and he suddenly cracked the window next to him with his bare hands, but he went on a rant, but suddenly Karma slammed a plant pot into the window, breaking the radio he was about to use, and the window had a much larger crack. 𝐻𝐻𝐿 told us how Karma is taking this seriously because his nose is pointing downwards and not up like normal, and they started to fight with Karma dodging his hands and he was jumping side to side, but Karma was blocking and attacking quickly while avoiding his hands, but suddenly gas hit him in the face and Karma fell and Grip caught him by his hair and said good night to him, but Karma suddenly hit him with gas making him fall onto the floor, but Karma used a cloth to not breath it in and he took down Grip and we tapped him up into a position which he couldn't move and he started to torture him with wasabi and other things, so we left him to it. Karma is definitely as ST, so we left him to have his fun for a minute but had to go, and as we were walking Ritsu told us that the Terrence was up the stairs and we had to go through the bar, and the girls said how they can do it, but 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 didn't want to let them do it. Until Karma said plan B and everyone looked at me and Nagisa. They made us cross-dress. Well, Nagisa, but I didn't have to because I already looked like a girl because of my physical appearance and what I was wearing, but what Nagisa was wearing made him look like an actual girl while I was wearing the same thing, but I still had my bag with me, so I gave it to Isegai to keep a hold of it, but I told him not go in it for reasons and because of what was inside. No, I was worried if some drunk guys would try to hit on me, but I can defend myself if I need to. We went into the bar and I stuck close to the girls and Nagisa, but as we were walking a cocky kid tapped Nagisa on his shoulder and said he would buy him a drink, and the girls pushed him to join the kid, and I was hoping that wouldn't happen to me, but since we left him behind I was left to protect the girls. Meanwhile, with the boys' third-person POV, the boys were waiting for the door to be unlocked, but Karma was getting bored, so he walked up to Isegai and snatched 𝐻𝐻𝐿/Izuku's bag, and Isegai told him to stop and give it back, but Karma ignored him and opened the bag to find relatively normal things, but there was a notebook he took out and he read the cover, Rabbit Vigilante Duo Patrol Routes. When he saw the cover name he asked 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, Karma, hey 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, you work in the government, so have you heard of a Rabbit Vigilante Duo before? 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, why do you want to know? Karma, because read this. Karma showed him the cover of the book and 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵's eyes widened at this because he was told to keep an eye on these vigilantes because they were known to both have tentacles and they were struggling to catch them, and they haven't been active recently because they were well known in Tokyo. So 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 told them, 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, I've heard of them because they are suspected to have tentacles like Itona and the octopus. Everyone was quiet because of what he said. It was quiet for a minute until Kimura said, Kimura, so these vigilantes have tentacles and they've escaped heroes a lot. Then have you encountered them, Mr. 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵? 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, yes, and they escaped, but we know they call each over Sweet Rabbit and Green Rabbit, and one of them is male and the other female, but the male one has a similar fighting style to 𝐻𝐻, but Green Rabbit did a number on 𝐶𝐿ady when I encountered them in our attempt to ambush them and take them in months. How bad did they hurt 𝐶𝐿ady? 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, bad enough to make her take a break from hero work for a few months, but one thing's is known, Green Rabbit might be fast as the octopus because he was able to move fast as him, but I don't know. Karma, well, what should we do? 𝐀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵, it might be the case that 𝐻𝐻 is investigating them, so take pictures of each page because that might be able to help capture them both. Back with the girls and two boys, Izuku/𝐻𝐻 POV, we were close to the door but a few drunk guys stopped us and they were hitting on us, but Yada got rid of them by showing a Yuzuka pin, so we kept going to the door and 𝐀𝐮 was talking to Yada about the pin and how Irina sensei how so many different pins and such, and we all started to talk about it, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 said something which I thought she wouldn't say. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫, ugh, I never thought I'd respect a girl with huge melons. This shocked me and 𝐶𝐻𝐵, but we reached the door, but there was a guard post in the way and I was told to get �ந𝐫𝐲, so I ran of the to find him. It took a while but I found him and that kid, but I could tell �ந𝐫𝐲 was not happy, so I walked up to him and said, Izuku 𝐮𝐦𝐴, there you are, I was trying to find you �ந𝐫𝐴. Hey 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐴, wow, he mixed our names, but I guess he did that on purpose. Izuku, come on, me and my sis are going to the room to have fun, you coming? After all us three are dating. �ந𝐫𝐴 immediately started to blush, but he caught on quickly, so he told me yes and he stood up and we started to walk away, but the kid he was talking to told us to stop and he said that he was talking to �ந𝐫𝐴, so I said to him in an annoyed tone, Izuku, look kid, me and Blueberry here are going back to our room to have fun. And if you didn't notice, we're lesbians, so leave us alone because Blueberry ain't interested. Kid, well, I don't believe you, so why don't you leave us alone? I was getting annoyed, so I did one thing I didn't want to do, but I have to so I can get us out of here. I put one hand on �ந𝐫𝐴's chin and I pulled him into a kiss for a few seconds, which took both of them by surprise, and so I said in an annoyed voice, Izuku, well, me and Blueberry here are going, and if you didn't get the message, we're both going to our room to FFF. I hate swearing, but I had to get my point though. I dragged �ந𝐫𝐴 by his hand and we left the kid alone, dumbfounded by. While we were walking, I said to him, Izuku, sorry �ந𝐫𝐴, I didn't want to do that, but it was the only way to get him of us. �ந𝐫𝐴, it's okay, it worked, right? Izuku, yeah, but let's agree to never speak of this moment again. �ந𝐫𝐴, agreed. We quickly got back to the girls and they asked why we were blushing and we told them no reason, but we were stuck on how to get past the guard. But the kid from earlier came back up to us and said how we can't leave without seeing his awesome dance moves, but we all thought they se, and he ended up bumping into a random stuck-up guy and that caused the stuck-up hit to spill his drink over himself, and they started to get into a fight, which the kid got scared and 𝐶𝐻𝐵 walked up to him and got his attention. Then she quickly knocked him out with a kick to the face. We used this and told the guard that he has had one too many tequila shots and someone could trip over him, so the guard took him away saying how he is an idiot lightweight, and we unlocked the door while �ந𝐫𝐴 said something to him, but I couldn't tell what he said, but we quickly got the others though the door. When we met up, �ந𝐫𝐴 took of the dress while I was given my bag back, and I quickly checked to see if anything was taken and it was the same, but I felt the illness that I got from the poison come back to me, but it wasn't as bad as before, but I was feeling tired and 𝐀𝐮𝐿 saw this, but she didn't ask me about it thankfully. But 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵 asked if anything happened in there and the girls said nothing and I said nothing as well, and so we continued on. We got to the VIP entrance, but there were two big looking guards blocking the way and we didn't know what to do until 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵 told Terasaka to use his weapon that he was carrying in his bag, and he went to get it, but while he was getting it we needed to get both guards at once, and he told 𝐴 to lure them over, but he asked how, and Karma told him what he can do if he has guts. 𝐴 went to the guards and insulted them, making them chase him, but 𝐴 was running towards us, so Terasaka and Muramatsu used stun rods to electrocute them and knocking them out, and we asked him how he got the money for those because stun rods are expensive, and he said that money came his way, so we left it at that. And 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵 is to search the bodies, and Terasaka found two live ammo guns and they were given to Chiba and Hayami, and we continued through but he had to go through the concert hall. When we got there we heard someone walking and he was looking at us, but he couldn't see us because we were hiding behind chairs, but the guy on stage shot his gun behind him and he told us the room we are in is completely soundproof so nobody can hear us. Then suddenly Hayami shot her gun and the one he was spinning in his hand, but she missed the gun. Suddenly a bunch of lights turned on behind him, blinding us, and he shot at Hayami, barely missing her head, and it went into the seat behind her. But 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵 told us that Chiba made a good choice not to shoot, and he said he will keep an eye on him, but the guy on stage started shooting 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵 to no avail. Then 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵 made us shuffle places by calling our names, but after a while of using our names he did his alternate naming scheme. Then he said 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵, the twin who had a notebook in his bag on a vigilante duo along with the student who checked out Takebayashi's favorite maid cafe only to discover he liked it, make a loud ruckus to confuse the enemy. Both me and Terasaka started to yell at 𝐀𝐮_𝐶𝐻𝐵 because of what he said, but I yelled Izuku/Teo. I told you not to go in my bag, I'm going to kill you. BS man, I hate cursing, but I'm not Izuku Midoriya, I am Teo Kayano, and I must keep up the role by curing now. And then he told Chiba to get ready, and he then said some advice to them, reassuring them, and he told them to fire, but Muramatsu lifted a dummy. He made quietly to lure the guy in, and Chiba took the shot, but he missed the guy and he hit the stage light, which collapsed, taking out the gun wielder, and Hayami shot her gun at him, knocking the gun out of his hands, and he collapsed, and we run up to him and we tied him up so he couldn't move, and we celebrated our victory quickly, and we moved on to the top floor. When we got up to the top, there was a guard in front of us, but Karasuma snuck behind him and he knocked the guard out. But 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 said how the mastermind has misused the assassins we defeated, and he started to make a plan, but the illness was getting worse and I can't hide the sweating anymore, and I was starting to burn up, and Terasaka was in the same boat, and thankfully nobody noticed me, so we went up the stairs. We got in the room where the mastermind is, and we quietly approached him, and when all of us were behind him he said, "This itch burns no matter what I do." The voice it was Takaoka, and we went in about how it itches so bad because of what I did to him, and he suddenly tossed a bunch of detonators into the ground. He went on about how we were naughty children trying to sneak up in dear old dad, and he had us where he wanted, but he then told to follow him to the roof, but as we were following him the illness was getting worse. I didn't have enough energy left to stand and I collapsed, scaring everyone, but Takaoka saw this and laughed and said how he thought I wasn't infected, but now that I am, it's going to be a lot better for him. 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 was carrying me, and thank God she can lift me, but she couldn't do it on her own, so Nagisa helped her, and they were carrying me by my shoulders. But when we reached the rooftop he told us his plan to use 𝐀𝐮 to kill him by placing her in a bathtub full of anti-sensei BBs and entomb the thing with concrete, and the only way for him to survive would be to blow everything sky high and killing 𝐀𝐮, but he knew 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 wouldn't do that. Then he told us why he wanted me and Nagisa, so he could get revenge on me for humiliating him and Nagisa, so he can have more fun, but since I'm infected and have no more energy to move he can't use me, so he told Nagisa to follow him up to the helipad, which he had to, and we were all worried. He blew up the bridge to the helipad and he went on how he is going to savor this, and he made Nagisa get in his hands and knees to apologize for what I have done to him. Nagisa did what he asked, but Takaoka threw the case which had the antidote inside into the air and he blew it up. He destroyed the antidote. Nagisa looked at me and Terasaka with pity, and Takaoka was laughing at him majorly, and Nagisa snapped. We had going to try and kill him. We were now saying how Nagisa snapped and how we all want to kill him, but Nagisa might actually kill him, but Terasaka threw a stun rod at Nagisa, snapping him out of the trance he was in, but he used the last of his strength to do this. He ended up collapsing after yelling at Nagisa. Nagisa picked up the stun rod and he placed it in his belt, and he held the knife. We were all worried on what he was doing, but we didn't know what was going to happen. Nagisa was getting beaten bad. I couldn't help him. I have no strength and I can't use my tentacles without showing I'm the green rabbit vigilante, but I can't do anything, nor can 𝐀𝐮 with her tentacles. We could only watch, but Takaoka took out a knife and he was ready to stab Nagisa, and 𝐀𝐮 told Karasuma to shoot him, but Karasuma didn't, and Karma said how Nagisa can't win this, but Terasaka said he can, and how the fight isn't over yet. Nagisa looked calm and he gave a smile to Takaoka, which was scary, but it was like Nagisa was a villain that I faced a while back. With that smile Nagisa slowly walked towards him and Takaoka looked terrified, and Nagisa got closer, but suddenly he dropped the knife and he clapped in front of his face, making him fall back, and Nagisa took out the stun rod and he used it in Takaoka, making him fall onto his knees, and Nagisa held the stun gun in his neck and he shocked him full force, knocking him out completely. What was that? Was it a quirk? But I thought Nagisa was quirkless, but I will ask him. We all cheered for Nagisa's win and we joined him up there, and 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 congratulated Nagisa, but the three assassins we defeated, and we got ready to fight, and Karasuma gave them a warning, but the assassins said they will surrender. They told us that avenging their employer was not a part of the contract. Then he told us, and 𝐶𝐿 told us that we weren't infected that bad, and it was a big you can get from eating oysters, but a more perfect version. And he said that he would rather lose some reputation than kill a bunch of junior high kids, and 𝐶𝐿 gave us a supplement which will help our classmates, but Karasuma told them they have to detain them for questioning, and Karma taunted Grip, but Grip left with the others. We went back to the hotel we are staying at, but I was getting tired and I ended up falling asleep on 𝐀𝐮's shoulder. Izuku POV. I've recovered from that big quite quickly, luckily, but it's our last day at Okinawa Island and 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 is making us go through this test of courage, and we are all partnered up, and I'm in the only group of 3 with 𝐀𝐮 and Nagisa, but I'm not sure that this is purely for courage, but I'll find out soon. Me, 𝐀𝐮 and Nagisa went in first, and we were only given an anti-sensei knife and a flashlight, but as we were walking 𝐀𝐮 asked Nagisa if he isn't bothered by this kind of thing, and Nagisa told us that he isn't bad with spooky stuff, but jump scares get him. Nagisa asked me if I am alright. with this thing, and I told him that I don't like spooky stuff at all, so I am hating this already. But before I could say any more, we heard an instrument playing and we saw 3 blue fireball and a green 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 which looked like a ghost. This scared me a lot, but when we heard 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 speak to us from behind, I jumped into 𝐀𝐮's arms in fear, but this caught 𝐀𝐮 off guard and she couldn't hold me because of this, and we ended up falling on top of each other. But the worst thing happened then. Our faces were close together but not close enough to be touching, and we both felt 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 push our heads together making us kiss. We kissed in front of Nagisa, but thankfully 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐴𝐫 quickly moved on to the next couple and we quickly go off each other, and we said to Nagisa at the same time while our faces were bright red, Teo plus 𝐀𝐮, not a word about this, okay? Nagisa, okay, not a word, promise, I promise. We were mostly quiet for the rest of the test, but we soon heard him panicking and we talked about it's weird that he is more terrified of us. When we all got out of the cave, we confronted him about this test, and he admitted that it was an attempt to hook us up with each other, but me and 𝐀𝐮 yelled at him for what he did to us in there without actually saying what he did. But this made everyone curious to know what happened, and we both yelled that nothing happened and they left it at that, but we both knew that they would try and find out. But then we saw Irina sensei come out with Karasuma sensei and she was holding on to his arm saying how nobody was in there, but then she noticed us looking at her and she tried to sneak away, but we just watched her leave and everyone saw that she was in love for Karasuma sensei and they all wanted to hook them up, and I said I don't want to be a part of this, so I left to the hotel so I can get some food. I saw them planning and it wasn't going well, but they went in with it. When it was time for dinner, I just ate something quick and I went to the beach away from everyone, and it was relaxing to get away from them and to watch the sunset. It was nice, and I don't really get moments like this anymore, especially with what's been happening recently. I was sitting there for a while and I heard my name being called, and it was Akari/𝐀𝐮, so I gave her a wave and she came up to me and asked what was I going here, so I told her Izuku. Simple, I came here to clear my head and watch the sunset. Why are you here, Akari? I was looking for you because nobody knew where you went, but I found you. Akari sat down next to me and we started to talk about what's been happening recently, and I leaned my head on her shoulder and I heard someone or some people walking near us, so I said to her, Izuku, 𝐀𝐮, be honest, do you think we can do it? I mean, what if we fail? Because I do want to get into UA, but I don't think I can. Akari, yes, I think we can get in because we are strong, and just because you're quirkless that doesn't mean you are weak. Some tears came out and I thanked her for saying that, and we just sat there enjoying the view before we had to head back, but we still had a good hour or so. I whispered to Akari saying how people are watching us and I think it's our class, and she told me to ignore them, but I suggest we take a walk to find a better view than this one, which she agreed to. So we got up and started to walk around the island, but I found a spot while we were walking at it was a hilltop view of the ocean, and we sat down close to the edge but not close enough to fall off. While sitting there it felt perfect and I couldn't hear anyone nearby, so we were alone after what felt like ages. I turned to Akari and said, Izuku, hey 𝐀𝐮, yeah Teo Izuku, after what 𝐀𝐮 did to us in the cave, what did you think of it? 𝐀𝐮, it was nice, but it would have been better if it weren't for Nagisa being there. Izuku, I get what you mean, but even though we keep it a secret, what will we do if they find out? Well, they don't suspect a thing, so we shouldn't worry. She was right, they didn't know, and we keep our secret hidden, and I was happy that I did what I did and faking my disappearance and getting a new identity. I leaned closer to Akari and the mood felt perfect, so I put an arm around her and I pulled her closer and we were both happy and we faced each other. I slowly brought her into a kiss, which when our lips connected it felt perfect, and we both got into the kiss more and we ended up making it more passionate. It felt like pure bliss in that moment, but we had to separate for oxygen. But when we did, we both went in for a second kiss and it was even more passionate than the last, and it ended up getting a bit steamy from how deep we went in for that kiss, and that feeling from before when we were in Mizudafu at that hotel. We both knew we couldn't go further because of where we are, so we decided to go back to the hotel room quickly to continue where we had to stop. When we got to the room, I put a do not disturb sign on the door and I locked it. Then I turned to Akari, who was on the bed waiting for me, so I didn't keep her waiting. She took me in for a strong passionate kiss which felt so good, so I slipped my tongue into her mouth and started to explore, which got out of her, but I felt a hand go up my shirt and onto my petite body, so I do the same to her. But when I got to her chest, she again. From my touch to I break this kiss and ask Izuku, should we go further? Akari, breathe. Yes, breathe. She was breathing heavily, so I took off her top, revealing her flat but cute chest, and she took my jacket and top off and she saw my petite body and said, Akari, You know, if I didn't know better I'd think you are a girl, you just need longer hair. I giggled at her comment, but I then went back to kissing her and I slowly undid her BR, and when I got it off I saw her melons, which may be small but they were perky, so they were cute for me, and I started to 𝐬𝐶𝐾 on one of them, making her in pleasure, and I slipped one of my hands down her shorts and underwear, which surprised her, and I began to rub her entrance, causing her to a lot. She started to quickly get wet, and I let out my tentacles, which immediately wrapped around her body, rubbing her, but she had the same idea with hers, but one tentacle went down my breathes and into my underwear, which it started to 𝐬𝐶𝐾 on my member, causing me to a bit, but I decided to go further with her, so I moved one of my fingers, which was rubbing her entrance inside of her, which caused her to loudly, but she quickly covered her mouth to stop it, and so I inserted a second finger, and I also started to 𝐬𝐶𝐾 on her other NPL while using a tentacle to 𝐬𝐶𝐾 on the first one, and she was in pure pleasure, but suddenly her wild body stopped and started to twitch, and I felt her entrance spew out a liquid. She came from that pleasure, so I stopped, but when my hand left her shorts she pushed me back, so I was laying on the bed and she started to take off my breathes and shoes, but when she was done she grabbed my fairly sized member and she put it in her mouth and she started to 𝐬𝐶𝐾 on it, but her tentacles started to wrap around my body, which made it really hard to move, plus the pleasure going through my body was so good I couldn't think straight, but I started to feel something build up in my member and it was getting stronger, and so I told her something was coming and she went faster, which made the pleasure increase, but I couldn't hold it in anymore and it shot out into her mouth. When it stopped she took my member out of her mouth, then she swallowed what came out and I could see hearts in her eyes. Then she smiled at me and took out a packet from the drawer next to the bed and she tossed it to me and she said to me, "Akari, put that on, we are going even further." She then turned around and took off her shorts and tights, showing me her wet light green panties, and she slowly took those off, showing me a clear view of her wet entrance, and she got on the bed and crawled towards B, so I quickly ripped open the pack to see a condom and I put it on quickly but securely. Akari reaches my face and she pulled me in for a kiss, then she lifted her body above my member and she grabbed it and aligned it with her entrance and she slowly went down, but when I felt it touch her it felt warm and she slowly went down and it was going in, but it felt so warm and it hit a barrier of sorts, but Akari pushed down on it, breaking it, which I could tell hurt, so she stopped for a minute before continuing and she got my member completely in and it felt so good. Then she started to move back and forwards a bit, which caused her to a bit, and it felt so good and my tentacles were making me want more, so I flipped her body so I was on top and I started to move inside her at a good rate, which was making me feel so good, but Akari was definitely in pure bliss and she was starting to uncontrollably, so I started to make out with her passionately, which made her more quiet, but I could still hear her emness. After a little while of doing this I decided to have some more fun by using my tentacles to massage her chest, and she made her tentacles join my member inside of her entrance, but they were skinning it while I was moving and it felt so good, but if the condom wasn't on them it would feel 1,000 times better. I started to feel it build up more with each move and Akari's tentacles were making it happen faster, so I told her, breathe, it's CC coming, breathe out." I came inside, but the condom damaged from Akari's tentacle skin on it, so I could feel it leaving the condom and going into her WMB, but it kept coming for what seemed like ages, but I finally stopped and pulled out and my own juices was leaking out of her and we were both breathing heavily. After a few minutes our breathing settled, so I asked her, "Izuku, what now?" The condom broke and I ended up leaking inside a lot. "Akari, simple, I'll take the pill, there should be some in that drawer over on your side, I saw it in there earlier." I opened the drawer to see that she was right, so I grabbed the pack and I gave it to her, which she then opened it and took 2 pills and she placed it on her side's drawer, but I was feeling tired from this, so I pulled her into a hug and I started to fall asleep, but before I did I managed to get out, "Izuku, love you." I ended up falling asleep before I could hear what she said to me, but I was pulled into a nice dream of us being together in the future third-person POV. It was the last day of the summer break and 𝐀𝐮_𝐬𝐴 had asked everyone in class 3 to go to the summer festival, but he thought everyone had plans that day, so he was discouraged with Izuku and Akari. They had made a little bet before going and it was a simple one, but Izuku lost and Akari won. Akari made Izuku wear a cosplay of 𝐀𝐮_𝐬𝐴, which he was heavily embarrassed about, while Akari laughed at his displeasure and she just wore a pink kimono with a flower pattern on it. When they got to the festival Izuku got a lot of stares, but he was able to ignore them, but when they ran into Nagisa and 𝐀𝐻𝐿, he was asked why was he wearing that and he said to them, "Izuku/Teo, me and 𝐀𝐮 made a bet and I lost, so I have to wear this." It was a special festival for 3E and it had a few notable events. First, Chiba and Hayami were banned from the shooting gallery due to their skill. Karma messed with a scammer and got a game console. 𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐽 got a ton of fish from a game. I don't know what it is called. It literally filled his entire bag, which the fish are kept in 𝐒𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 and Akari/Kid was with Nagisa, and they played a game which got them a lot of prizes because of their assassination skill, and Irina seduced some men to get her drinks and such, and 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 took advantage of the stall that his students out of business, which he turned them into food stall so he can get more cash because it's the end of the month soon. The fireworks started and everyone was watching them because of their beauty, and overall they all agreed that it was one hell of a summer vacation. Ditch of September. Izuku/𝐻𝐿 POV me and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨 called everyone in but even thought it was still summer break. They wore their uniforms for some reason, but I was the only one who ignored it and wore my own clothes, same clothes as last chapter. 𝐀𝐮 told us our plan, Operation Pudding Popper, and she took us outside, but while going to where she is leading us, a few of the others asked if I knew what the plan is, and all I said was Izuku, I helped plan this, but we kept it a good secret because if 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 were to find out then it definitely wouldn't work, so we kept it a big secret. When we got outside we saw all of the things we need, and 𝐀𝐮 explained the plan in more detail. 𝐀𝐮: the plan is to plant bombs of anti-𝐶𝐶_BBs into the base of the giant pudding. When he eats his way to the bottom we detonate it. Everyone was saying how it is worth a shot and how 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 loses his marble when it comes to anything sweet. We told the others what to do, and I was on mixing team 2, and Kurohashi said how she saw on TV that some people tried to make a giant pudding but it was too heavy, so I explained that we are using gelatin and agar because it can hold the weight better than what they used, and soon we were putting the batches in and 𝐀𝐮 them that the higher layers will have more cream. When we were putting the batches in he also put in flavor cubes which gave it multiple flavors, which wasn't just vanilla. Soon we just had to do the cooling process, so we hooked up the coolant tubes and let them run for the night. The next day when we got to the school we saw that the pudding had cooled overnight, so we took of the cover which held it and the pipes with the coolant, and the pudding was nearly ready, so we put softener gelatin on the sides. Then we got on top of it to place caramel for flavor, and we used a flamethrower to cook the caramel on top. When it was finished we took a good step back to see our work, and it looked delicious. My tentacle-induced sweet tooth is wanting me to eat it, and I'm using most of what I have to stop myself from eating it later. 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 was staring at it, barely holding himself back, and he asked if the pudding was just for him, and 𝐀𝐮 said that it was, and he thanked her while crying, and he then took out 2 trowels and said he won't leave a bite left. So we headed back to the classroom. Both me and 𝐀𝐮 wanted to stop him because it was a massive pudding and we both love pudding. Well, 𝐀𝐮 loves it more than me, but as he was eating it me and 𝐀𝐮 were staring at it, and I had a flashback on us planning it and our small attempts of making a smaller version of it. But when my flashback finished I lashed out yelling no, and 𝐀𝐮 did the exact same thing, and we both started to hit our heads on the window yelling on how the pudding we put our heart and soul into can't blow up, and Terasaka was holding both of us backing while telling us that we shouldn't get emotionally attached to a pudding, and 𝐀𝐮 yelled how it should be kept at a monument for good, and the class yelled at us that it will rot. Suddenly 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 arrived in the classroom saying he needed a break from that and that he smelled out the bomb. Then he told us how he disarmed it by going underground and removed it. Then he said how since we all put hard work into this pudding that we should be able to eat some, so he said a good portion for each of us to have. I immediately ate mine, while 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 said what we would be doing in our next civics lesson, and Nagisa said that he didn't think we could be so hardcore and that it was fun and out of place too. Both me and 𝐀𝐮 gave a smile and giggle, which only the two of us truly knew what the smile and giggle meant. Then we said to them at the same time, Teo plus 𝐀𝐮, not even your closest friends get to see your true blade, and 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 gave his correct face with the orange circle time skip. When the summer break ended we played cops and robbers to test our parkour skills, and 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 was a cop with Ritsu and Mr. Karasuma, and the rest of the class along with Irina Sensei were the robbers, and we had to avoid Mr. Karasuma because he was chasing us while 𝐀𝐮_𝐭𝐡𝐨 was guarding the one which were caught, and Ritsu was keeping a tab on who is caught. I went on my own away from 𝐀𝐮 and the others, and I was alone, but I wasn't far from the waterhole we have, but I heard something move, so I got into my rabbit-style position and I was ready to run, but a normal rabbit came out of the bush, so I just stared at it and I left the area. But while I was running I heard a loud scream, so I was now wondering who the hell was that. After a while a few people were caught, but they somehow escaped, and I ran into 𝐀𝐮 and a few others and I joined up with them, but we were soon being chased by Mr. Karasuma, but due to my rabbit style I avoided him without problem. But I could see that 𝐀𝐮 was about to get caught, so I quickly grab a branch from a tree and whack Mr. Karasuma, which surprised him, and 𝐀𝐮 took this chance to escape, and so did I, and we both managed to escape him and I was alone again, but I still had 20 minutes left until the game is over. I sat down on a high tree branch and I waited, but as I was waiting I heard a very quiet voice. What do you truly want, Izuku? I looked around to find where the voice was, but I couldn't find anything which could be it, so I decided to ignore it, but after a good 5 minutes I heard it again, but it was louder like a whisper and it said the same thing. What do you truly want, Izuku? Why was this voice asking that question to me? I already want to be a hero, so what would I truly want? But what is that voice? Maybe it was just my head playing tricks on my, or was it the tentacles? I think I'll ask 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 when we get home, or are definitely alone, but my tentacles are getting sore from being in my body and it is a bit difficult to hide them because I have to do multiple things at once. Keep this persona up, hide the pain from my tentacles, do my schoolwork and focus on assassination training. Hide my relationship with my sister. Soon the game of cops and robbers was finished and we all went back to the classroom, but when we got there Mr. Karasuma scolded 𝐀𝐮_𝐬𝐴 because he took bribes and such, and he said to me that my stunt with the branch was a good idea and worked, but to not do it again because it could go wrong, which I said I would be careful next time. When we got to class it was just a normal day, but during it I went to 𝐀𝐮𝐴 and said to her quietly, Izuku, you know what has been acting up? She looked at me a bit shocked but quickly composed herself and told me that we will deal with it when we get home later. When me and 𝐀𝐮𝐴 got home I quickly got out of my uniform and put on a onesie because it was late, but after I put it on 𝐀𝐮𝐴 told me it was my turn to make dinner, so I just made a hot pot, but while making it 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 asked my what did the tentacles ask me, so I said to her Izuku, 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 the tentacles asked my what do I truly want, but I didn't give an answer, so they'll probably ask me again soon. 𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴, well I think you should tell them before it gets annoying, plus you should probably let them out because it will hurt more hiding them. I did what she suggested and let my tentacles out while she did the same, and I used my tentacles to help with the hot pot I was making while 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 are on the TV. When she was watching TV it said how there was a yellow menace which has been stealing women's bras which were a F cup or above. When I finished the hot pot I called 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 to the table letting her know it was finished, but when we were eating it she said to me, 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴, hey Izuku, have you noticed how your hair is getting longer? I looked up at her and I quickly took my phone out and used the camera on it so I could see what she meant, and she was right, my hair was about the same length as Kurahashi's, but I decided to let it grow more because I want to try a new hairstyle which is going to be the same as 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴's cat ear style hair, so we can trick them later because it would be funny. The next day me and 𝐀𝐮𝐴 woke up like normal and did our schedule, but when I was getting changed I saw I had no trousers left and I asked 𝐀𝐮𝐴 where have they gone, but I was still in my pajama bottoms and school top, but she said to me, 𝐀𝐮𝐴, simple, they were all dirty last night so I put them in the wash, so you're going to have to borrow a skirt from me. She was smiling at me like she did this on purpose, so I reluctantly took the skirt she gave me and put it on. It didn't feel right, but I can get used to it because my breathes are in the wash, so I just have to wear them today, but I admit it is comfortable. But I won't let her know that when we got to class we saw some of the others around a magazine which said the same thing on TV, and we quickly came to the conclusion that it was 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴. But when they looked at me I was asked why I was wearing a skirt, so I told them what happened and a few of them giggled at it. After a small while we discussed this for a minute, but the door suddenly opened and 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 came through, so we all gave him disgusted looks which he immediately asked what was wrong. On when he saw the newspaper and magazine he immediately tried to play it off and say it wasn't him, and we asked where was he when this happened and he told us 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴. I was moving from 10,000 to 3,000 meters altitude shaking a bag of seasoned fries, and we yelled how nobody could prove that, and 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 tried to defend him but it was pointless because he made it worse, and 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 ended up telling him to turn himself in. 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 again tried to defend himself and he told us to go to the staff room, and when we got there he went through his magazine collection, but he pulled out a purple flower pattern BR. It was silent after we gasped from the sight. Most of us looked in disgust. Then Okano rushes into the room and told us to look in the class roll book. She placed it on the table and opened it to see that he wrote letters next to the girls' names and it was their cup sizes, but me and 𝐀𝐮𝐴 saw that next to our names it had 𝐀𝐮 forever flat Teo Keano. Larger than his sister, might be a girl after all. Both me and 𝐀𝐮𝐴 started to yell at him and I ended up yelling Izuku, hey why the hell does it say that I have a larger cup size than 𝐀𝐮𝐴 a boy 𝗧𝗜𝗍𝐴, even though I don't swear I couldn't control myself, and I ended up cursing at him by calling him a twat. But a paper fell out of the roll book and it was a list of the women in the school which have at least a F cup or above. Again 𝐻𝐻𝐾𝐮𝐴 tried to defend himself, but we all gave him dirty looks, but I gave him a sad and disgusted look, but my tentacles wanted to kill him right here and now, but I had to keep them from going on a rampage. Then 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 took out a cooler and said that he was going to have an after-school barbecue, and he asked if the skewers looked tasty, but he took out 6 large bras on skewers. It was quiet again, everyone was staring at him, even Irina-sensei and Mr. Karasuma, and Sugino said how that isn't good, and the girls looked away in pure disgust. Hell, even I joined the girls with the looks. After school the final bell went, and it was an awkward day because of what happened, and we discussed on how it couldn't be 𝐀𝐮𝐬𝐴 because Karma pointed out how if he really were to do this he would be more careful because he would rather die than lose his students' respect, and Fuwa said that it was a fake 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 doing this. We decided to investigate this, and since there would be a bounty of underwear of some well-known girls we decided to sneak in and wait there. Soon we saw 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 and we all had 2 thoughts. One, is he after the true thief? He is the thief. Then Karma spotted something and told us to take a look, and it was a guy with a yellow motorbike helmet which looks like 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴. The mystery man ran in and took a bunch of the underwear, but as he was escaping 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 shot out and got on top of him and yelled at him for disguising as himself. Then he said, 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴, I'll be you naked and take care of you from stern to stern. 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 got the helmet off and we saw the face of the thief, and it was one of Mr. Karasuma's men. Suddenly a net covering 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴, and we rushed to it and we saw Shiro walk towards it, and he said how the government lent him one of Mr. Karasuma's men and that he lured you into this trap of anti-sensei sheets. Shiro snapped his fingers and Itona jumped into the cage, but his tentacles had some kind of cover on them. We could tell he was struggling in there because of the sound. Sans Shiro was just doing a large monologue. Terasaka yelled at Shiro asking him if it was his plan, and Shiro told him it was, but Terasaka said that it was our kill, and Fuwa asked why did he always play so dirty, and Shiro said this to her. Shiro, it's called being an adult. Then he told us how Itona's tentacles have a glove with sharp edges made of anti-sensei materials. Then he said how it will kill him because when it just touched 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 it will damage him because of the gloves. Soon Itona did a heavy attack and it did damage 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴, but 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 was now dodging him with ease, and we could telling because he is talking and not yelling him pain like before. Then Itona's tentacles stopped moving. 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 most likely caught them and is holding them in place. Then the cage started to glow white and the ground started to shake, and suddenly a massive laser shot out of the cage making a bright white light. 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 caught Itona's falling body and said it was over Shiro, and then he panicked, saying how he is not a underwear thief, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 said how she was at least a B cup, and we just stared at her for a moment while I just sighed. But then Itona woke up and he immediately coughed up saliva and he fell on the floor clutching his head in pain, saying how it hurts. The Shiro told us this is happening because of the multiple defeats, and he mumbled how this might be all he can take. 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 asked what type of guardian is he because of what he was doing, and Shiro just said back, Shiro, quit playing school, you monster. Then he went on a small hate-filled rant and he just left, but Itona tried to attack us and I wasn't sure if I should use my tentacles to block the attack, but just as I was going to, 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 appeared and blocked it for me, so I quickly made sure my tentacles were hidden without the others noticing, and I looked back at Itona and I saw that he was in a state which made him look like a ravaged beast, and he jumped away leaving us behind. Then 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 collapsed from exhaustion and said he needed a little rest. We were quiet for a minute and we let 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 rest, but Ritsu appeared and showed us a news report of a destroyed cell phone shop. We all went to find him, but we were searching for a while, but we found him in an abandoned area, and 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 tried to calm him down so he could remove the tentacles in his head, and Itona wanted to fight again, but he was in no shape to even attack a baby. Not that he would, but 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 said that he can fight him somewhere secret, then after that we can study ways to kill him while enjoying a barbecue, and Karma told him how persistent 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 is. But suddenly some smoke bombs went off and I couldn't see, but the back of my neck where my tentacles are was stinging. My guess anti-sensei power in the smoke bombs. Then a firing squad started to shoot at 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 while Shiro told him that this was the true plan. The one of Shiro's men used a net gun to capture Itona, and when they got him in the truck they drove off and the smoke cleared after a while. Then 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 flew off to find him and we went off to look for him as well, but Ritsu told us that 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 has found a lead, so they went to the spot 𝐀𝐿𝐮𝐬𝐴 asked them to go to. When we got there we saw a firing squad shooting at him while they were using pressure rays to slow him down, so we took out the firing squad by hitting them off trees without parkour, and we made sure the rest of the class helped, and we quickly took out Shiro's lackeys. But Shiro ended up running away and we got Itona, but he isn't looking good, mainly because his tentacles are killing him. Third-person POV location. Unknown, it was a dark room with a bunch of screens, and there was a long table with heroes and some detectives as well as a certain government agent. The topic of the meeting was the recent vigilante duo which had been causing problems for the heroes with their work, and they hospitalized the pro-hero 𝗀𝗚𝗏 during the meeting, a discussion of the vigilante's identity, and it was getting a bit heated due to some arguments. 𝗀𝐮𝐬𝐵, like you all know, we have been trying to take out the rabbit vigilante duo in Tokyo, but we haven't succeeded. But even when we tried to ambush them, Green Rabbit saw through it and yelled to his partner Sweet Rabbit that it was a trap, and so they escaped. Ryukyu, they have become troublesome, I admit, but do we have any leads on who they are? 𝗀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵. During the summer class 3E, which is trying to kill the tentacle, it went not to plan, as you know, because a good chunk of the class was poisoned by Takaoka. But during the infiltration to get an antidote, one of the students left a bag which a different student went through it and found this. 𝗀𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 pulled out a phone and connected it to a screen and showed the heroes what it was, and it was the rabbit duo patrol routes. 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵. This was found in a student's bag, and I've come to the conclusion that either the student in question is doing an investigation on their routes, or he knows them, or, and I doubt it, the student might be a part of the vigilante duo. Nizu, could we get the name of the student? 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐮𝐬𝐵 pulled out a file and showed it on screen, and it was a student file which was for Teo Keano. 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿. This was the student who owned the notebook, and it might be him with the similar fighting styles, but we can't be sure. Plus, when I first met him, there was a sort of feeling that I already knew him, and when I asked the tentacle, he said the same thing. So, he is being watched during school for any suspicious activity. All Might. You can't be serious if the vigilante is young Keano then. How is it possible? It says here that his physical capabilities are not like what we've seen in the vigilante. 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿. You are right about that, but there is the chance he might be holding back, but with recent events it's possible it might be true. But this brings me to a second part. Headshot. Would you please tell us this? 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿. Before Teo Keano arrived in E-class, there was a student named Izuku Midoriya, but he went missing not long before Teo arrived, and Midoriya was approached by Shiro, who has been using a student which has tentacles to try and kill the tentacle, but to no avail. Yet anyway, sometime before Midoriya's disappearance, Shiro talked to him and Midoriya played it off like it was nothing, so I decided to let it go. And I don't know what Shiro gave Midoriya, but it might have been those tentacles Green Rabbit has, but I can't be certain. But we do have two possible identities for Green Rabbit, while for Sweet Rabbit we still don't know, but we do know she is female, so we have that. Nizu, this is tricky, and I'm guessing when we capture them you want their help with killing the tentacle because of their tentacles. 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿. Correct, and this is all I have for this meeting, so you are free to leave now with class 3E. And Itona was passed out on the floor while 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 explained why he can't get rid of the tentacles yet, and it was his pathological attachment to power and winning, and that they needed to get rid of that attachment so they can get rid of the tentacles in his head. When they discussed what could have made Itona this way, Fuwa told her theory because he only went after cell phone shops, and that she had Ritsu look up some stuff about him, and that they found out that Itona was the son of the president of the 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐵 Electronics Company, and that the company went bankrupt. They now realized what made Itona this way, but Terasaka spoke up and said that was what made him a delinquent, and that he and his group will take care of him. But if he does, then that's that. Terasaka took them to Muramatsu's family ramen restaurant, but it failed to help him because of the recipe and how blunt Itona was saying how if a new ramen restaurant were to open close by, this one would shut down because the recipe was from the 1950s or 4 generations old. So they took Itona to Yoshida's motor track, where they got Itona to ride a motorbike with Yoshida, but it went wrong and they flipped the bike. And the rest of the class except Karma was worried. Hazama gave Itona a book to read and said how reading this could help him get back at Shiro, but Terasaka yelled how that is too dark, but Itona snapped and his tentacles came out. But Terasaka said how everyone wants to kill the octopus and how he can't do it right now, and that he should get rid of that impossible vision of him because it will be easier to work together and kill him. Itona slapped Terasaka in the stomach with a tentacle, but the tentacle was caught, and Terasaka said it was easier to catch and how it was weaker than before. After some talking, Terasaka managed to convince Itona to let go of his vision of killing 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 alone, and both soul of this 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐿 was able to get rid of the tentacles, which everyone was glad, so they decided to go home for the day. But with Teo Keano, his tentacles, which only his sister knows about, asked him the same question of what does he truly want, and Teo was able to give the answer: to protect 𝗀𝐻𝐻𝐻 and be with her. When the next day arrived, Itona went into the classroom, which everyone greeted him, but Itona just went to Terasaka's group and joined them, and the class went back to normal. Well, class E normal, at least. Izuku POV time, 10 p.m. location. Streets of Tokyo. I was with Akari on our normal patrol, but I had to recently change up our routes because the heroes have caught into our patrol routes, so we started to mix things up by going in a random direction tonight, and surprisingly there wasn't much crime tonight, so it was an easier night. For us, well, except that there is a lot of heroes tonight which we have to avoid, but we both have our tentacles to fight them with. While we were taking a quick break, I decided to tell Akari, Izuku, "Hey sweet Akari, yeah, green Izuku, I think that 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 and the heroes might be getting closer to my identity, Akari. Well, what should we do? I mean, it's not like we can break into where they keep the information on us and destroy it. We would be caught, Izuku. True, but I think we take a good break and let the heat die down because there isn't this many heroes around during our patrols, Akari. That could be a good idea, but we should discuss this when we get home later, okay? Izuku, fine, plus I do want to do something when we get home, and don't ask, I'll tell you later. We both decided to end the patrol early, and I pick up Akari bridal style and I fly off to our apartment, which when we get inside it was around 10 p.m. So we decided to put a movie on, and we just chose a film called Meta Runner New Game Plus, which was supposed to be good, but before we started the film we both put on some pajamas, which was but shorts and a top for both of us, but my top had a dream pattern on it, so sheep and starts and such, while Akari has a rabbit pattern on her. We started the film and we talked a bit while watching it, but we started to cuddle while watching the film, which felt nice, but I started to get a bit cold, so I used my tentacles to grab a blanket from my room and I cover both of us, but when I did that I felt something wrap around my body, so I quickly take a look to find Akari's tentacles wrap around my body. So I do the same with my own tentacles and also my arms, but I had to bring her closer to me. After a while I started to feel tired, but thank God that it's Sunday tomorrow, so no school, and I decided to hug Akari a bit more tightly, but not enough to make her uncomfortable, but before I know it I ended up falling asleep while hugging her. Week later it was a normal day and 𝐀𝐮_𝐴𝐵 has just finished the day's lessons, and I saw 𝐼tona working on what looked like a remote control tank, but I decided to leave them to it and go home with 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 because I want to train with me tentacles more, and I know a good place which happens to be an abandoned junkyard not too far away from out home. When I got there with 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐵 we took out our tentacles and I tried to cover my body with them, so I started with my arms and it felt weird because my arms turned into multiple tentacles like 𝐀𝐻𝐮_𝐴𝐵, but they were green, so I spread it further and it covered my upper chest and neck, but when I tried to cover more I felt an extreme pain, so I stopped, and I now know that I can only cover that much, so I should train with that for a while. I learned that doing this makes me similar to 𝐀𝐻𝐮_𝐴𝐵 because I felt my reaction time go up and my thinking speed had also gone up while doing this, and when I felt certain emotions my tentacles change color like 𝐀𝐻𝐮_𝐴𝐵, but when I feel cocky it goes into the same pattern as 𝐀𝐻𝐮_𝐴𝐵 with the yellow and green stripes, and we kept going training, but we soon heard something approach us. And thankfully we wore our vigilante masks here because it was a security guard, but when he saw us I grabbed him by the neck with my tentacles and I asked 𝐀𝐮, Izuku, what should we do with him? He saw us. 𝐀𝐮, kill him, I'm sure he won't be missed. I stab him with a tentacle and I quickly dig a hole and threw his body in there, and I fill the hole making it look like nothing was there, and we decided to go home and not stick around the next day. Soon me and 𝐀𝐮 got up to the school at about 8 a.m. and we heard the class pervert Okajima saying how they can use this to look up girls' skirts, but I'm wearing one because my school breathes had gone missing, but as I was going to say something, Kataoka beat me to it by putting her hand on his shoulder and saying, Kataoka, what's this about up our skirts? And he tried to play it off by saying how they were talking about the side skirts on cars, but we walked in saying how we heard what he said, so we asked whose idea was it, and Ritsu woke up and said, Ritsu, good morning. Oh, Okajima, I have finished that fisheye lens correction program ready for you. When Ritsu finished saying that, all of the girls looked at him with a glare and I didn't, but Okajima tried to make sure he wasn't the only one to get in trouble, but we all said it was him, and the girls all said girls, boys, 𝐻𝐿. Expect you, Teo. I was happy they said that, so I just sat down and I saw 𝐼tona leave with Karma. Later I heard Kimura say how his name is Justice, but he gets everyone to think it was Masayoshi, and when we asked him about it he told us both of his parents are cops and they named their child Justice because they were so high on justice. But Hazama said how her name is Kurara, and she asked if her face looks like a Kurara, and then she went on how her mother lives in a fantasy and if something happens which she doesn't like she will go into screaming hysterics, and that was the kind of stress-filled house she grew up in, so I just didn't say a thing. The Karma walked up to us and said that it must be rough getting such weird names. Then he said how his mane fits him perfectly. Then 𝐀𝐻𝐮_𝐴𝐵 said that he wasn't satisfied with his name, but when I asked Teo, why not I, though you liked 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐴𝐵, I mean my sister named you that 𝐀𝐻𝐿_𝐴𝐵. I do like it. That's why I'm not satisfied. There are still 2 people who won't call me by that name. He looked at Mr. Karasuma and Irina Sensei, then he said 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Mr. Karasuma just says, "Hey, you there, we're not some middle-aged married couple." We heard some of the others say how it's probably embarrassing for a full-grown adult to be like, 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫. Yada came up with the idea that we could call each other by code names instead, and she went on saying how on the island the assassins we faced all had code names, and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 said it was a good idea, so he took out a box and said we will write down suggestions and place them in there, and that he will take them out and we have to be called by that name, and that we will be forbidden to call each other by our real names for the day later. After we all got our code names in PE, we had to hit the densest with our shots by working together with our code names. I was waiting in a tree with a rifle with a scope attached to it, and I was waiting for my signal, but I heard Karasuma call out forever flat and poison specs, and I knew that it was the signal, so I shot a load of paintballs at him and I hit the densest 4 times, but I missed the other 6 shots. Then forever flat yelled for dignified didact, English lass and gender to take over, and they all fired some shots but they all missed, so it was only me and 𝐬𝗏. Soon the training session was over because Justice got the last shots, killing the target, and we went back to class. Soon it was the end of the day and 𝐀𝐮𝐭𝐡𝐨𝐫 asked to call him by his own nickname, which was Prince of the Fateful Eternal Wind, but the class decided to ignore that and instead call him the octopus of the idiotic perverted chicken, which was funny. But when we stopped shooting, some of us had left, and Nagisa said that it was fun calling each other by codenames, and Sugino agreed with that, but 𝐀𝐮 said 𝐀𝐮, and whose big idea was to put me down as forever flat Teo, yeah, and who called me class trap. I mean, I get that I look like a girl and sometimes cross-dress, but still, class trap, that was annoying wuss.